Renee, do you see that? You're on mute.
Oh, I see it, Ruth. It looks perfect.
Okay, thank you. So good morning to all of you across the state and apparently across the country for who is ever in Arizona. My name is Ruth Schriefer, and I'm an extension educator in Iowa County. So I'm sitting in Dodgeville, Wisconsin this morning, and I would like my co-presenter, Tiffany, to introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Renee. My name is Tiffany. You almost got it, Renee. Iliadis, for anyone who's wondering how to pronounce it, kind of like the Iliad, but with an is. I'm the lifespan and financial security educator. So just like what Ruth does for UW Extension up in Wapaka County. And I confess this is my maiden voyage at presenting. So thank you all for being here and for being patient with me.
Yeah, Tiffany's new in her position within the last 6 months, so we're glad that we could do this together today. So what we plan to cover in our Be Scam Smart topic today is the cost of scams, who might be a scammer. We're going to share a variety of scams, especially focusing on those that target older adults. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to avoid being a victim and, unfortunately, what you need to do if you are. A scam can be defined as an attempt to intentionally mislead a person or people, usually with the goal of financial or other gain. So this is somebody who's trying to do something to you, to their benefit, and unfortunately to your deficit. So we're going to do a low-tech poll today. And our question is, have you ever been scammed or had a scam attempted on you? So if you can find your chat button, typically on the lower toolbar of your Zoom screen, they'll say chat, and you can chat in yes or no or not sure. And let's see how prevalent scams are among the group that's on the almost 40 of you who are on our Zoom today. So find the chat button and then chat in yes, no, or not sure. And Renee, I'm going to rely on you because I can't see the chat screen.
Okay. Yeah, Ruth, there are a lot of yeses coming in. Some
Okay.
yeps. Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All yeses, one not sure.
Okay.
A few not sure and no's, but not yet. Another one says.
Not yet. Instead of a not sure, a not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who typed in yes and yep, or gave us the thumbs up, as you can see, you are not alone in this. Scams are really prevalent, and that's why we're doing this topic today. Thank you for sharing. So sadly, elder family financial exploitation is the most prevalent type of elder abuse. Older adults need to be careful of all the individuals in their lives as potential financial abusers. Please know that this doesn't mean you need to isolate yourself from those who care about you and from your loved ones. But it does mean that you need to be alert to the motivations and actions of those around you. Keep an eye on your accounts and limit access to those accounts. Regarding family members, the most common perpetrators are adult children, followed by grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and others. Common ways for family members to scam their loved ones include depleting a joint checking account, promising but not following through with chores or care in exchange for money or property, and even outright theft. So scammers can be somebody you know. It could also be a complete stranger, but it's commonly someone you know. There's lots of different ways for scammers to be in touch with you. 1 out of 4 adults ages 60 and over were actually contacted by scammers on the phone. So we know that that is one very common method. Scammers can also contact you through your email, through your surface mail, on your social media, and in person. The Federal Trade Commission said that there's 4 signs that something is a scam. First of all, scammers pretend to be from an organization that you know. They often pretend to be contacting you on behalf of the government. They might use a real name like the Social Security Administration or the IRS or Medicare, or they could make up a name that sounds official. Sometimes they pretend to be from a business you know, like a utility company or a tech company, or even a charity asking for donations. They can use technology to change the phone number that appears on your caller ID, so the name and number you see might not be real. I think many of us have seen that kind of an example. Another way that the Federal Trade Commission says that it might be a scam is that if the person contacting you says there is a problem or a prize, they might say you're in trouble with the government, or that you owe money, or that somebody in your family had an emergency, or that there's a virus on your computer. Some scammers say there's a problem with one of your accounts and that you need to verify some information. Others will lie and say you won money in a lottery or sweepstakes, but you have to pay a fee to access it. The third indication that you might be a victim of a scam is that the scammers pressure you to act immediately. They want you to act before you have time to think. If you're on the phone, they might tell you not to hang up, so you can't check out their story. They might even threaten to arrest you, sue you, take away your driver's license, deport you, or they might say that your computer is about to be corrupted. And finally, a fourth sign that it might be a scam is that scammers will tell you to pay in a certain way. They often insist that you pay using cryptocurrency or by wiring money through a company like MoneyGram or Western Union. Or, this is something we've been hearing about a lot lately, putting money on a gift card and then giving them the number on the back of the gift card so they can redeem it. Some scammers will even send you a check that turns out to be fake and then tell you to deposit it and then write out your own check to send them the money. So you can see that these 4 signs that it might be a scam have something in common with that capital letter P. Scammers pretend. They may say there's a problem or a prize. They may pressure you, and they may tell you to pay in a certain way. I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany.
Thanks, Ruth. Lots of great information there. So the costs of scams, and we did look at national level data for the US, but we decided to kind of zero in on Wisconsin costs here. And you can see there's a disproportionate amount of costs for people who are over the age of 50. So we created this data visualization that shows you on the left, adults ages 50 and over are losing close to $25 million. I think that's probably around 24 million there. And you can see that out of that group, ages 60 and over, they're losing the most money. They're losing close to $17 million, or this was from 2021. For ages 50 to 59, I believe this is about $6 million that they're losing. And when you see those two stacked together, that's quite a bit more than all of the other age categories combined. let me see what else I wanted to say about that. Just so you know, this data visualization, I did include the total number of each, amount of Wisconsinites for each of those categories, but it's not a graph that visualizes the number of people. It's visualizing the cost. I just put that in for your information. You can see over on the right-hand bar there, under age 20, only 220 Wisconsinites were impacted by scams that were reported. And it would be interesting to see what percentage of scams they believe are unreported. Ruth, for the next time, we'll have to find that out. Thanks.
Thanks, Tiffany. So why are older adults that frequent target? You saw that bar that Tiffany shared in her slide about how many people and how much it's costing. So all consumers, all of us need to be on guard against scams because we can all be victims. However, research does show that older adults can be even more vulnerable because of changes in their brain that make it harder for them to detect suspicious body language or other warning signs that somebody might be untrustworthy. We also know that older adults might be more isolated. They're more likely to be home, and that means they're available to answer the door or answer the phone. Or maybe they're less experienced handling finances if a deceased spouse or partner was the primary money manager. Older adults may have savings or assets. They may own their own home rather than being a renter, and they may have good credit. And all of those things make them very attractive to scammers. In addition, older adults may be less likely to report fraud because they don't know how, or they might be too embarrassed to talk about it.
This is me. So
Yeah.
let's do another poll, everybody. Which scams targeting older adults specifically do you think are the most common? And we gave you some options here. If you want to pop into the chat, romance scams, credit card scams, identity theft, investment scams, extortion, IRS or government scams, or phishing and spoofing. And we'll get into those definitions in a second. Oh, Christopher says all of the above. Feel free to just type into the chat, or if you want, you can unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, we have one that says investment, identity theft, extortion, phishing or spoofing, another phishing, credit card, phishing, spoofing, identity theft, credit cards, a little bit of everything. Romance too, someone said. Okay, I don't see any more coming in, so
Thanks, Renee.
it's all across the board, not any one particular option was picked.
Yeah, and we can always create a little chart afterwards and do quantities on each of these. But I feel like I saw a lot of people know what phishing and spoofing already is. But we'll cover those in a second. If you want to go to the, oh, there we are, next slide. Thank you everybody for all of those great answers there. It sounds like a lot of you are already very aware of a number of scams that are out there. So this next chart, this is data that was taken from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, otherwise known as IC3. So 3 C's in the name, so IC3 for short. And it was taken from their elder fraud report from 2021. And if you want a good nerdy read, I highly recommend this report. So the IC3, or the Internet Crime Complaint Center, they're fielding cyber crime complaints. And Ruth and I were just discussing this yesterday, a little curious and kind of murky water there. But the question is, when is it a cyber crime versus, if somebody solicits you to call, and then somehow they direct you online, or they call you and then they direct you somewhere online, would that still fall under the cybercrime category? So that's another thing for us to follow up on and try to determine is, what percentage of these might originate as a cybercrime through email or whatnot, and then what might originate elsewhere but end up, with you on the internet, sharing your personal information. So anyway, looking at the cyber crimes by victim count across the US for older adults ages 60 and up, tech support was actually the #1 crime. And you can see down on the bottom there, this quantity of people affected by these categories of crime. Almost 15,000 people ages 16 and older were victim of a tech support crime in 2021, which I don't know. Do you guys find that surprising? No, I see some head shakes. Nope. Yeah, we're all online. We live online nowadays, so it's easy for people to find us. And that's where a lot of us do our banking and our everything. The second one, non-payment, non-delivery crimes. It's what it sounds like. Say you order something, but it never comes, but you paid, and then you don't get a refund on it. Non-payment, say you sell something and then someone never pays you. That's actually a pretty astounding number too. You can see there that looks about, I don't know, 13,000 people affected by that over the ages of 60 in 2021. Identity theft, I feel like that's the one I hear a lot about, and that's right up there on the list. #3, confidence fraud, which includes romance scams, grandparent scams, personal data breach, extortion, phishing, spoofing, kind of further down the list in terms of number of people affected. But that's still a lot, a little over 6,000 people across the nation. Business email compromise. This is a term that I actually wasn't familiar with, but I understood the concept when we started to put together this presentation. Just meaning scams that originate through email for business specifically. And of course, there's the personal email account compromise. Sometimes you see these abbreviated as BEC or EAC for the personal email account compromise. Just would be emails coming to you, personally versus a business. And those seem quite low when you look at victim count. Government impersonation, our beloved IRS scams, right? Somebody calling you and telling you maybe you owe, on your taxes and you just need to give your information. And then lastly, credit card fraud down there at the bottom. So if we can go to the next slide, then we're going to look at the same data, but in a different way. So now we're looking at cybercrime types, but based on the amount of money lost in the US for ages 60 and older. Look at #1. Is anybody surprised? Confidence fraud and romance scams are top of the list. So, meeting somebody, say you meet someone online or even in person, and they try to extract money from you or personal data that they want to use nefariously. That's actually #1. And you can see on the bottom there, we've got dollar amounts. That's close, almost $500 million in the US for people ages 60 and older. And that, I just find that mind-boggling, especially when you compare it to the tech support, almost 15,000 people. But where's the real money at? It's when your heartstrings are being pulled. Second is that business email compromise. So email used for business use or personal email account compromise. That's a lot of money too, right there. You can see that's almost 300 million there. And investment, then tech support, personal data breaches, real estate or rental scams, government impersonations, a little further down the list for money lost. Identity theft, lottery, sweepstakes, inheritance. Non-payment, non-delivery is much lower when you're not doing by quantity of people affected. And then credit card fraud. So a couple of things about these two charts we looked at, and I'm sorry, so many bar graphs in a row here, but I love to look at the data because I think it tells an important story. One is looking at the source for where the data came from. This is from that Internet Crime Complaint Center. But when Ruth and I were crafting this presentation, there's actually other sources you can look at on the national level to kind of see, okay, this is cybercrime specifically. You might be looking at elder fraud in another way. And again, it was a little bit of murky water kind of discerning, is this based on where the scams originate or where they end up or any inclusion? Someone who calls the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center might not be the same person getting targeted for scams who calls one of the other agencies that might field it, or maybe they call something, some agency at the state level too, like Wisconsin's Bureau of Consumer Protection, I believe, that would handle complaints like this. So bottom line is there's a lot of sources online for you to look at. I highly recommend Googling. Even if you just Google, senior fraud or elder fraud, you can find a lot of interesting information. The other thing is just to always remember what's more prevalent, like the tech support scams being listed as number one might not be the highest amount loss. So then don't forget, you want to look at both sets of data, what's the most common, and then also looking at what's potentially the riskiest for someone, trying to defraud you. Thanks. We can go to the next slide here. So now we're going to take a look at some of the popular scams, specifically some on those lists that we mentioned, targeting older adults. Oh, and again, this information is coming from that FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center 2021 Elder Fraud Report. So top of the list, that one by victim count, we're going to look at tech support fraud. So what is that? Let's take a look at the next slide. So again, tech support fraud is the number one scam reported among those ages 60 and over in the US. And this is where scammers will impersonate a well-known tech company, a financial company, a utility company. One recently, the other day, sort of tangentially through my mom, was like a Microsoft one, and they're pretending to be somebody they're not. And so you just always have to be hyper vigilant when you get a text message or you get an email or you get a phone call from someone identifying themselves from a certain company, but they're soliciting information. Here they're saying, oh, they fix non-existent technology issues. They might even be creating the issue. Also, they could be soliciting renewing, fraudulent software, security subscriptions, like, oh, please update your Norton antivirus, but it's actually not Norton antivirus. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So some of the tactics that people will use for tech support fraud, phone calls, of course, and call you and tell you need to do these things by phone. Pop-up ads. How many of you have gotten one of these scary looking pop-up ads here? I don't know if you can see okay, right? Yes, I've seen a few of those in my time. And they look so official. And you can see here, I pulled this from the Microsoft website as an example. And when you look at the URL, right, just short for the internet address for that website, it's very tiny print, but it can systemalert93.com. But then everything on the page is branded for Microsoft. It's got the Microsoft logo. It looks super official. It's very streamlined. As someone who does graphic design myself, right, I could throw up a page that looks like this. It's very easy to kind of replicate the look of an official company. But when you look at that internet address there at the top, it's not coming from a Microsoft website. So these are just important things to keep in mind when you see these types of pop-ups. And the pop-up may be telling you, oh, you've got, maybe you downloaded something, you clicked on something accidentally in your email, a link you weren't familiar with, or it said it was Microsoft and you clicked on the link. And then you get this pop-up that says there's a virus that's been installed on your computer, or, please call, or sorry, not a virus. Like if you have the pop-up, it'll tell you, oh, please call for tech support, like something's out of date, you need to renew, something along those lines. Also, tech support fraud can include, online ads and listings and search results pages. And this one happened recently in my family, where someone had, I think it had been just on that sidebar, looking at msn.com, and they accidentally clicked on it. And suddenly there was loud blaring sound saying, warning, warning. And it said, Trojan virus downloaded, please call 1-800 blah, blah, blah. For Microsoft, and we're going to help you, recover your computer from this virus. And it was all fake. It was all just part of the web browser. We can go to the next slide. So for tech support fraud, victims are often asked to wire money to overseas accounts. It seems crazy at the time to even think about that, but again, if you suddenly lose control of your computer where all your important documents are, you might only have one copy and no backup. This is a reminder to always back up your data in multiple places. It might seem pretty compelling at the time that, oh, geez, if you just send this little bit of money overseas or to wherever, that you're going to restore your access to your documents. They might also, as Ruth had said, ask you to purchase a large amount of prepaid cards or gift cards. That's definitely a telltale sign. Or they might ask you to mail large amounts of cash overnight or even express service. Again, these sound crazy talking about now in the broad light of day, but they're not so far-fetched when you think you've lost everything you have. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so a lot of you already are familiar with these terms, some types of tech support fraud, or used often to elicit tech support fraud, and they're phishing and email spoofing. So phishing with a PH, just think how you cast your line and you reel a fish in. So this is when scammers will send a very authentic looking email or a text message or a web page shows up, and it will trick you into revealing your personal information. I recently saw one of these through my university when I was doing my graduate degree, and it said, time to change your password. And it was part of like the university's email being hosted and like with Microsoft, and it very official. It was one of the best ones I'd seen so far. And I thought, gee whiz, I just changed my email, I think 6 weeks ago. And because I knew email only needs to be changed once every 6 months. This is a new thing nowadays. You see a lot of your online accounts will force you to change your email. This is like a best practice for security online. And so I reached out, I didn't respond to the email. I didn't click on the link, though it all looked exactly the same as what the university sends. And I forwarded that email to my university's tech support department. And I said, hey, is this legitimate or is this a phishing scam? Are they trying to reel me in? Am I that fat fish they want to catch? And they emailed me back and they said, no, that absolutely is fraud. You can click on the report as phishing link. And that's something you guys can do too in your emails. You'll see like whether it's Yahoo or another email client, is usually there's a link to report spam, and then sometimes there's one to report specifically for phishing attempts. Email spoofing. This is when the email address is disguised to look like that of someone you may know. So I might send an email, or anybody could send an email, say from a Yahoo account, and it should say my name, right? Tiffany, blah, blah, blah. But I could change it so it says something else and the name is masked, even though the email is different, if that makes sense. Sorry, I should put a visual example, or well, I have one here. So PayPal, this is so this one's tricky. It says from PayPal, and then it puts in brackets service at PayPals with an s.org. And that's one of the sneaky things with spoofing and phishing, is there'll be like one letter off or one digit, like they'll add a number into the name. And I'm sure a lot of you have already seen these in your email, but it takes some real careful attention paying to make sure that you don't fall victim to this. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And these are just some examples. You guys can read these afterwards. We'll share the presentation. But just some of the language around it, it sounds so serious. You know, say, oh, our records indicate your account was overcharged. Call us to receive your refund. Well, that sounds attractive. You know, you think like money's owed to me. And that's another thing, again, things that tug at our heartstrings, like, oh, I want to get a refund, or, you know, something that I can potentially rectify. Let's go to the next one. All right, so what are some prevention tips? I know I mentioned a few things while kind of relaying about some of those different aspects of tech support fraud. One, update your antivirus software, your security software regularly. I know I have a Mac. You can use antivirus software on it. I tend not to. I've not had issues that I've had when I've had a PC, but if you have a PC, absolutely keep it up to date regularly. And then two, don't email financial information or account numbers. Try to remember to be good about this one too. You don't want to be putting your personal information in email, not just, oh, could, you know, somebody, you know, guess your password or log in, but, you know, maybe you left your email open somewhere in a public place, or maybe there's been a data breach and like everybody's passwords, you know, say Yahoo or a big company, have been compromised. This is also why it's important. I don't know that that's on this list, but it's a good idea to use different passwords for different things. I like to use like what I call like different tiers of passwords. So like for my financial institutions, I'll have one type of password and I'll use it just for like the several banking institutions that I use. Oh, another thing, sorry, I don't think it made it on this list because we had lots of different sources we were consulting and trying to put them together and create an amalgam for you guys. But I hear now the new thing for password creation is to create like a phrase, like, I mean, not, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog or something, but kind of like that, create a long, memorable phrase. And I mean, personally, I like to put numbers and symbols, and a lot of password solicitations from these accounts, like your email accounts, will tell you you have to use an uppercase, a lowercase letter. You have to use a symbol like an exclamation mark or an asterisk sign. So I tend to do longer terms and, combinations of things with symbols and numbers. But yes, the new one is to create a longer phrase that's memorable. And of course, you can do auto-generating software, auto-generating your password. And that's one I've never jumped on the bandwagon. And I have to say, there is always a risk for things. You can also store your passwords in apps. Like, was it LastPass was one, and they recently were hacked. There was a data breach. And that is the cost of doing business, in modern times. Like, we trust a lot of our information in the cloud. Just because it's not in the cloud, meaning, online, doesn't mean it's, necessarily safe either. But I tend not to use that third-party software. A lot of people do. But bottom line is, anywhere can have a data breach. Third on this list for tips is be careful when you're opening attachments to your email. I tend to not open anything I'm not expecting, even close friends, best friends. If they send me a link on Facebook that's some sort of, I have to click on it, or it's an image, or it's a link to Instagram or something else, I will actually write back, prove that it's you before I click on it, just in case, because a lot of my friends, I see like their Facebook accounts get hacked. So that's just something, and people have to learn not to take it personally, because it's your data that's at risk. It's your data, it's your finances, potentially, your identity. So yeah, I always try to not click on things and make sure they're coming from the people they say they're coming from. Now, if it's not friends and it's just coming in email, say you get something that's coming from like your utility company, and geez, it looks official, but you're not expecting it at this time of month or whatnot. The best thing for you to do is, look up the phone number for that, whether it's in the phone book or online on an official website or on your last statement, and you call and you say, oh, I'm calling to see, did you actually send this to me? I had to do that recently. I received a text that just said, you need to pay, $70 some for something. And I wasn't expecting it. It didn't tell me what company it was from, and I could only guess it was associated with my car. And I called my credit union about my car loan to say, hey, I made my payment. What's this additional fee? And they said, oh, that sounds like spam. Well, eventually I figured out that it was from my insurance company, and it was just a private text message that the insurance agent had sent, but they hadn't made it look official. So that's one example where it wasn't necessarily a scam, but it looked like it. And I chose to be hyper vigilant rather than just trusting it and clicking on the link that she sent. You can never be too careful. Yep, we've already covered use passwords that are hard to guess. And then, lastly, a tip is just to shut down your PC when not using it. Oh, and there's one thing that's not on this list, but came in handy the other day. I don't know if all of you know, like they say when you shut down your computer, you should go to the shutdown menu and shut it down, the proper way with clicking on shutdown. If you ever get those scary pop-ups and you need to shut down your computer, like override it, you can press the power button for 6 seconds and it's gonna go off. You're probably gonna lose everything that was on there. Some are set up to recover like a Word document. You would always be saving. When I type long 30-page papers for grad school, I'm saving almost every 60 seconds. Control S on my computer, Control S, save. And it's just a best practice I've gotten in the habit of. But that's a way to kind of, when you restart your computer, you can see, oh, is there really an issue? And you can run an antivirus scan on your computer to see if it's safe. All right, let's go to the next one. More tips. Okay, never give control of your computer to a third party unless you know who you're officially dealing with. Say, like I called Apple recently for iPhone related issues, and they wanted to remotely log in. I knew I was on the phone with Apple, so I went ahead and gave them control, but it still feels a little unnerving because they can see what you're doing. They can't necessarily control it, but in the case of an actual scam, they could, like say you're on your laptop or your desktop computer and they ask to log in and they get the credentials and the information they need. they can take over your computer essentially. So you really need to make sure you know who you're dealing with. But rule of thumb is you don't want to be letting other people control your computer. Next, don't rely on caller ID alone to authenticate a caller. This is that whole, spoofing concept where they can have the number look like it's coming from the IRS and calling you, and then they ask you to give them your credit card info. The IRS is never going to ask for that. They're never going to call you and ask for that over the phone. So kind of combination of things. One, don't give out the information. Two, you got to know which agencies, have which ways of reaching out to you. Third, you want to be cautious of scammers posing as tech support online, and use tech support listed on a software package or on your receipt. So again, you might see those scary pop-ups. Trust no one, everybody. Trust no one. Go back to your box that you purchased in the store for $200 for your Microsoft Office, and find the phone number on there, or Google it. Make sure you're going to the direct website. Lastly, we put a link in here. You should be able to click on this in the PDF to visit onguardonline.gov for more information. All right, we can go to the next one. All right, romance scams. Let's talk about romance scams. Okay, so it's exactly what it sounds like. Who among us who does not have a partner, does not want a partner, or want love, or want a relationship? So when somebody approaches you, say online, and obviously it can happen in person too, but we're kind of focusing more on the cyber crimes here. Remember, this was the almost $500 million lost among adults ages 60 and older in the US. So if someone approaches you and they start up kind of a relationship, but there's going to be some telltale signs, that this might be a romance scam and not someone who's genuinely falling in love with you or interested in you. Scammers, they might assume a false identity. You might have heard of the term catfishing. Who's heard of catfishing? Maybe you've seen the TV show, but that's where someone, might use somebody else's pictures, use an attractive picture, pretend to be someone else, and they may or may not be trying to get money from you or information from you or whatever it is they're trying to get. They're not genuinely interested. So to help prevent that, they're going to take time. They're going to build trust with you. Maybe it's over weeks, maybe it's months. And then eventually they might ask for money from you, under these false pretenses of like, oh, you're my romantic interest. Like, would you be willing to help me out? And again, these scams can happen online or in person. Let's go to the next slide. So romance scammers, I put a picture here, she looks like she genuinely has some car trouble that's going to cost a lot of money. But when someone's just asking over the phone, or they're asking on text, like, oh my gosh, my loved one ended up in the hospital. I can't afford the bill. Geez, what am I going to do? They might just throw their problem out there and know, based on your good nature, that you're going to step in and say, oh, hey, I've got some extra money saved. Like, I could help you out. Or they'll say, oh, it's just a loan. It's just temporary. I mean, this is how these romance scammers tend to operate. They really know how to get to you, right? They might ask for help with, say, a problem they have. Maybe they have an addiction, like a gambling addiction, alcohol, something, and they say, oh, I really need help. I'm just trying to get through this crisis. This is just a short-term thing. Maybe it's more, the next one they say, maybe they're asking for money to come see you. Like, oh, I love you so much. We've been dating for so long. Maybe you're 2 months in and they say, I'd love to come see you. I just need to get the plane ticket. Can you help me? Maybe their credit card's not working right now, right? And they just need you to help them because their credit card's temporarily disabled. Maybe they even go as far as to tell you their credit card has been compromised. They're the victim of an identity theft or credit card scam, and they just need your help because of this, temporary thing. They might also just ask for smaller amounts on loans and then gradually increase the amounts. First, it might just be like, oh, hey, I forgot my credit card. Can you pay for dinner? Next thing you know, that's when they're asking for the big bill coverage. Lastly, we talked about gift cards and wire transfers. They like to use those because they're hard to trace and they're not retractable. So again, those should be big red flags if anybody you're romantically interested in is asking you to get them gift cards. Okay, so other things they might do is they might contact you through social media. A lot of us are on Facebook, or Instagram or TikTok or other places. Social media is anywhere where you can engage with other users, other people in the public about the content online. YouTube, is a form of social media. That's right. Even YouTube's not safe. Don't get me wrong. I'm on YouTube almost every day, but if you go to YouTube, you can start to comment on things. A lot of people, do meet in all age ranges, do meet people through social media. Maybe you love to read the New York Times and you start commenting there. And, you're having some great rapport with someone. They seem really clever and, you like what they have to say. Maybe you agree with certain political views or, life views that they have, and that sort of bonds you together. But you have to remember, this is online. You don't know who this person really is. And obviously, most of us here are probably from Wisconsin. This is a friendly place. I've traveled and lived all over the world, so I can attest to just how friendly we are. Obviously, I'm biased, but I just want to say, be extra cautious as being good people of Wisconsin here, to just make sure you really do due diligence to figure out who you're interacting with. I created this little handsome gentleman over here on the right, saying, oh, Jonathan, 58, he's a doctor, ready to make you swoon. And you will see a lot of stuff like this on dating apps where it kind of looks too good to be true. And oftentimes then it is. And that's number 2. Yeah, seeming too good to be true. So in-person romance scams, unfortunately, the people closest to us, as Ruth had said earlier, can be the ones taking advantage of us. So, this could be you, this could be another loved one, a parent, where say it's even someone like a caregiver, who's interacting with them every day. And they could be the person who suddenly starts asking for personal data, personal information or financial help. It could be someone you even meet in church, God forbid, right? Or a community center or a social group. Next slide, please. So this warning signs, we talked about some of them. Certainly, if someone is overly complimentary and flirtatious, mind you, there's a lot of different personality types, but you might have heard the term love bombing. This is when someone comes on really strong, really fast, and they're saying what seems like all the right things, showering you with attention. Other warning signs might be they want you to keep your relationship secret. They say, oh, I can't share this now. Maybe they're going through a divorce or something else. There's some reason that they have that you can't share it. And then they slowly start to take an interest in your financial matters. And then eventually they might try very persistently to ask you to share that kind of information with them. So just be cautious. Next slide, please. More prevention tips. Just be careful what you post online and what you make public. Again, a lot of those things not just for romance scams, but other scams on Facebook will say, oh, and they'll ask you to list 10 things like my dog's name, like what city was I born in, all this other stuff. That's actually, those are like the prime security questions as second tier, authentication to get into, say, your email. First tier being you enter your password. Second tier being what city were you born in? What was your mother's maiden name? Don't share that stuff online. Nobody needs to know that. There's other ways to share things you're interested in. Just be careful. For romance scams specifically, just make sure to take it slow. Go slowly, ask lots of questions. Again, if it seems too good to be true, it very well may be. Beware of people who try to isolate you, especially with that love bombing stuff. Like they're so into you and showering you with affection. But then they're saying like, oh, I just want to spend time with you. Don't go spend time with your family or your kids or your friends. I just want to be alone with you. Let's go on vacation. Like, oh, can you just cover my ticket? Right. And beware of other promises that never, promises to me that never actualize. People can string you along for a very long time. Lastly, of course, don't send money. You shouldn't need to send money to people you're romantically interested in. All right. And next.
My turn to talk about grandparent scams. And we know these are common and we know they're frustrating. Grandparent scams are pretty simple. They can be pretty low tech. It might just involve a phone. And once again, it is meant to tug at your heartstrings. Scammers call a would-be grandparent and say something like, hi, grandma, do you know who this is? And when the unaware grandparent guesses the name of the grandchild, the scammer sounds like, the scammer is then able to instantly secure their trust, like, Johnny, is that you? Oh, yes, grandma, it is Johnny. So then the fake grandchild asks for money to solve an urgent problem, like overdue rent or car repairs. And they beg you not to tell anybody because they'd be so embarrassed if their parents found out. But fraudsters often ask to be paid via gift cards or money transfer, which don't often require identification to collect. So older adults may have no way of recovering that money. In other versions of the scam, the caller claims to be the arresting officer or a doctor or a lawyer trying to help the grandchild. Once again, confirm before you go down that path. Government and IRS scams, we know it's tax season. And if the IRS is calling you and saying you owe money for taxes, it's not the IRS. They can use their spoofing toll-free numbers. They can use common names. They could have a fake IRS badge number. They may even know the last 4 digits of your social security number. Unfortunately, those things aren't as totally private as we would like them to be. They might send you bogus emails. They might mimic a call site with all kinds of background noises, like if you've ever tried to call the IRS and get a question answered. They might threaten you with jail time or driver's license revocation. If that happens to you, just hang up and call that agency back so that you are sure that you're talking to the local police department or your own Department of Motor Vehicles. The IRS will always send written notification and information to you via the US mail. The IRS will never ask for credit card or payment information on the phone, and they'll never ask you for personal information via email. So if you're communicating with the IRS, if you're calling them with the number that you know is the IRS, you're in good shape. If they call you, it is probably not the IRS. Look for written notification if there's even anything you need to be concerned about. We also know that there's lottery and sweepstakes scams out there. Scammers in this case might be calling you or emailing you or texting you regarding lotteries or drawings or sweepstakes, but they're asking for money up front to process that award or that win, or to take care of the taxes up front. And they might even send you an authentic looking claim check, or they could pose as an attorney for a group of winners. So there's lots of different ways that they could get your attention. Shifting gears really quickly, that was kind of an odd transition. If you're being targeted for telephone scams, it's really important to remember that you can't win a contest that you didn't enter. So if somebody's calling you and saying, hey, you've got, we just pulled your name, or we just came across this information and you are a winner, unless you remember entering that contest, it's probably a scam. You never have to pay to play. So if they're asking for money up front so that you can get your prize, that's pay to play and most likely a scam. Be suspicious anytime anybody asks you to wire funds. That's one of the telltale signs of scams. Pay attention to warnings from your financial institution. Your banks or your credit unions are they're great at this. If they see unusual activity, or they think that you're coming in and asking for money or asking for cash or asking to wire money that you don't usually do, and they say, hey, Charlie, is everything okay? Like, Charlie, what's happening with your family, or who's, they don't want to pry, but they want to make sure you're making an informed decision before you take money out of your account. So pay attention to those warnings. If the caller claims an emergency, check it out. So say, hey, Johnny, my beloved grandson, I'll call you back in a few minutes. And then you could use their phone number and just check on them. And like Tiffany said in the romance scams, be wary of any kind of request for secrecy. If somebody's telling you, send me this money, but let's just keep it between us, that could be an example of a scam situation also. Tiffany, we've got about 3 minutes to finish up our slides, so we have time for questions.
Okay, talk fast, but not fast. Okay, so these are just some other scams, and we actually kind of covered them a little bit on the other slides. We already mentioned what these are the most common scams in the US. So again, looking at FBI like national level data, business email compromise, we talked about. Anytime, through business email, you get potentially, threatened for someone to take your information or to extract money from your business somehow. Personal email account compromise would be the counterpart for that. Personally, identity theft is when someone tries to steal your personal information, like your social security number, and uses it to commit theft or fraud. And I think most of us are pretty careful about not giving that number out, randomly. But certainly there are other things that they could try to steal too. Maybe it's like your bank account number, or even account numbers for certain, utilities and whatnot. Lastly is ransomware, which, we looked at some of those pop-ups before where it says like, oh, a virus has been downloaded. It's there's two ways this can happen. One is like a pop-up on your web browser, you're in Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome, and it's just a pop-up telling you there's a virus downloaded. That's different. That's just like this pop-up, right? But you close your browser and it goes away. But then there's this ransomware where say you get the pop-up and it's from your computer's operating system, not the software. And it's telling you a virus has been downloaded or something is locked to your computer and that you have to, you can't get rid of it. You shut down your computer, you hold that power button 6 seconds. When you restart it, you get that same pop-up saying you need to pay these criminals money in order to regain access to your accounts. That's ransomware, right? And that's where I said, if you take anything away from this talk, is to back up your personal data, whether it's on a removable hard drive, and it should always be 2 in case one fails. That happened to me. And then just make sure, or in the cloud, make sure that you don't risk losing all of your valuable documents and photos and everything. Thank you.
So what happens if, oh, darn it, I was careful and I'm still a victim? Now what? So scams are specifically designed to catch us off guard, and they can happen to anyone. There's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed about if you think you are a victim. There are people who can help. Doing nothing can actually make it worse. So keep a list of phone numbers and resources you can turn to, like a trusted friend or family member, the local police department, your bank or credit union, and even adult protective services through your local ADRC. If you were scammed, think about right away, stop communicating with the scammer, talk to somebody you trust, tell your financial institution, and be sure to report it. Just a summary there. And to reduce your chances of being scammed, we are, Extension and other organizations do a program called the Aging Mastery Program. And these are their tips for reducing our chances of being scammed. Just remember that you are at risk. Don't isolate yourself. Stay in touch with family and friends. Get it in writing, whatever it is. If somebody's offering you something on the phone, suggest that they send that to you in writing instead. Shred, shred, and shred some more. Anything with your personal information on it. Sign up for the do not call list. We know lots of people have done that, and calls still come in, but it does reduce the number of calls. So get on that do not call list. Use direct deposit whenever you can, so that money is going directly from the source to your financial institution, whether it's a bank or credit union. Don't overshare your personal information, account numbers, social security numbers, even birth dates if you can avoid it. Don't overshare. And then it's okay to be skeptical, to ask somebody to confirm some information, to just wonder and to be curious. It's okay to be skeptical. You got the pack of slides that we shared this morning, and from that, you can see a lot of the resources that we used to put this information together for you. Money Smart for older adults, Savvy Saving Seniors, Steps to Avoiding Scams, How to Avoid a Scam from the Federal Trade Commission. The Wisconsin Department of Ag Trade and Consumer Protection has a really nice, concise senior guide on common issues, particularly related to scams. And then from consumeraction.org, Just Say No to Scams. So lots of good information out there that you can access and that you can share. And one more thing. We just had Identity Theft Awareness Week, January 31st to February 3rd. And although we missed it this week, the resources are still available at Identity Theft Awareness Week from the Federal Trade Commission. So even if we missed all that great information they had to share, you can still access it online. So we do have a couple of minutes for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there was anything that came up in chat, Renee, or any questions that people want to either put in chat or come off mute and ask us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth and Tiffany. Great advice and information today. I did not see any questions yet, although it looks like maybe one is coming in now. If you receive written notification, such as U.S. mail to complete U.S. Census Bureau information, if the URL includes HTTPS, can you be confident that this is legitimate? Letter included, official looking seal. Not everyone in my neighborhood received it.
Okay, so whoever wrote that in, you were right away, you were being skeptical. It's like,